Single father panics when the millionaire says, "Today we are going on a blind date." The industrial floor buffer hummed its familiar rhythm as Ryan Walker guided it across the marble lobby of the Melbrook Hotel. 5:30 a.m., his favorite hour. The world still asleep, the hotel holding its breath before the chaos of another day. Just him, the gleaming floors, and the soft golden light filtering through the massive windows overlooking the Pacific. At 28, Ryan had perfected the art of finding peace in routine. Blue uniform pressed sharp, yellow gloves protecting hands that could disassemble a motorcycle engine blindfolded. 4 years since Sarah's death. 3 years working here, raising Hannah alone. Life had a way of stripping you down to essentials and teaching you that dignity lived in how you did the work, not what the work was. He moved the buffer in smooth arcs, watching his reflection blur and sharpen in the polished stone. The rhythm was meditative. Buffer forward, pull back, shift left, forward, back, shift. His mind wandered to Hannah's excitement last night, bouncing on her bed in her yellow sundress, blonde curls flying. "Daddy, Daddy, Miss Clara says she found someone perfect for you." Ryan had laughed, ruffling her hair. "Baby, Daddy doesn't need—" "But you're always lonely. Miss Clara says her friend is really nice and pretty and she likes motorcycles." That had made him pause. Clara Martinez was the hotel's event coordinator, a force of nature who'd befriended Hannah during the staff family picnic. A good woman, but also the type who saw a single father and immediately started matchmaking. "Hannah Walker," he'd said, using her full name, their signal for serious talk. "What exactly did you and Miss Clara plan?" Hannah had grinned, gap-toothed, and unrepentant. "A blind date. Tonight. Miss Clara's friend doesn't know it's you either. It's a surprise for both." The buffer caught on something. Ryan killed the motor, knelt down. A woman's earring, tiny diamonds catching the lobby lights. He pocketed it, made a mental note for lost and found. As he stood, movement by the elevators caught his eye. Celeste Davenport emerged from the private elevator, clearly just finishing an all-nighter in her office. Royal blue blazer over a white silk blouse, denim shorts that somehow looked boardroom appropriate on her, fine blue heels clicking against his freshly buffed floor. 24 years old and running a hotel empire her father had built. Blonde hair pulled back, blue eyes ringed with exhaustion, skin that somehow stayed sun-kissed despite the hours she spent buried in work. Their eyes met. They always did. "Morning, Mr. Walker," she said, that small smile appearing. The real one, not the CEO mask she wore for everyone else. "Morning, Ms. Davenport." He nodded respectfully, heart doing that stupid thing it always did. "You're here early. Leaving late, actually." She paused, shifting the leather portfolio under her arm. "Big investor meeting later today. Wanted to review the numbers one more time." "You'll do great," Ryan said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. "You always do." Something flickered in her expression. Surprise, pleasure, maybe loneliness. That was the thing about Celeste Davenport that killed him. Everyone saw the success, the billion-dollar legacy, the glossy magazine profiles. Ryan saw the woman who worked until dawn, who ate dinner alone at her desk most nights, who lit up when Hannah waved to her in the hallways but didn't seem to have any children of her own to go home to. "Thank you," she said quietly. Then, with a slightly awkward laugh, "You know what's funny? My friend Clara set me up on a blind date tonight. First one since my divorce finalized. I'm terrified." Ryan's blood turned to ice water. No. That's great," he managed, his voice sounding strangled. "Good for you." Celeste studied him, head tilting. "Are you okay? You look pale." "Fine, just remembered something I forgot to do." He gripped the buffer handle. "I should get back to work." "Of course." She lingered another moment like she wanted to say something else, then walked toward the front entrance. "Have a good day, Ryan." She'd used his first name. She never used his first name. Ryan waited until she disappeared through the revolving doors, probably heading to her Maserati, then to her ocean view mansion in Malibu, to a world so far from his 2-bedroom apartment in Culver City that they might as well live on different planets. Then he pulled out his phone with shaking hands. "Clara, we need to talk. Now." The response came immediately. "LOL, you figured it out? Don't panic. She's amazing and you're amazing and this is fate." Ryan wanted to throw the phone across the lobby. Instead, he texted, "You set me up with my boss, Clara. Are you insane? Former college roommate, current best friend, and yes, your boss. Ryan, she talks about you all the time. The maintenance guy with the kind eyes. The single dad who's so good with his daughter. She doesn't even realize she's half in love with you. Ryan stared at the text until the words blurred. Then, and when she realizes who I am, when she shows up to this date and sees the janitor, she'll be humiliated. I'll be fired. This is a disaster. Trust me, please, just this once, let yourself have something good. Ryan shoved the phone away. His hands were shaking. He looked down at his blue uniform, the yellow gloves, the buffer that had become an extension of his body. He thought about his apartment where Hannah was probably still asleep, her drawings of motorcycles and princesses covering the fridge. He thought about his blue Harley Davidson in the parking garage, the one thing he'd splurged on after Sarah died, the one thing that made him feel like himself instead of just the janitor or Hannah's dad. And he thought about Celeste Davenport, with her brilliant mind and her lonely eyes and the way she always stopped to ask how his day was going, how Hannah was doing in school, if he'd had time to work on his motorcycle lately. The woman who saw him, not his uniform, not his paycheck, him. "Daddy!" Ryan turned. Hannah burst through the staff entrance, Clara trailing behind apologetically. His daughter wore pink today, white sneakers lighting up with each step, blonde hair and the pigtails he'd learned to do from YouTube tutorials. "Baby, you're supposed to be with Mrs. Chen." "I know, but I had to make sure you're not backing out." Hannah grabbed his hand. "Miss Clara told me everything. You're going to have dinner with her friend and it's going to be so romantic." Ryan shot Clara a look that could melt steel. She had the grace to look guilty. "Hannah insisted on a pep talk," Clara said. "And look, I know you're freaking out, but—" "Freaking out?" Ryan kept his voice low. "Clara, she's Celeste Davenport. Celeste Davenport. She owns this hotel. She owns half of Los Angeles. When she realizes, she'll realize you're the most genuine man she's ever met." Clara interrupted. "Ryan, she's been divorced for a year. She's lonely. Her ex-husband was a tech billionaire who treated her like a trophy. She needs someone real. Someone who sees her, not her bank account." "I'm her employee," Ryan said flatly. "There's a power dynamic here that's—" "She didn't hire you. Corporate HR did. And technically, she's not your direct supervisor." Clara crossed her arms. "Look, you can back out. I'll call her, make an excuse, but Ryan, when was the last time you let yourself want something? When was the last time you thought maybe, just maybe, you deserved to be happy?" Hannah squeezed his hand. "Daddy, you talk about her all the time." "I do not." "You do. Ms. Davenport looked tired today. I hope she's okay." Ms. Davenport complimented the lobby. "I worked extra hard on it." "Ms. Davenport remembered it was your birthday. Wasn't that nice?" Hannah grinned. "You like her, Daddy. It's okay to like her." Ryan looked down at his daughter, 7 years old and somehow wiser than he'd ever be. Sarah used to say Hannah was an old soul. Right now, Ryan believed it. "It's complicated, baby girl." "Love isn't complicated," Hannah said with the certainty of a child who'd never had her heart broken. "You just have to be brave." Clara's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then at Ryan. "Celeste just texted. She's nervous too. She said she's going to wear something casual because she doesn't want to intimidate her date. She's worried he won't like her when he meets the real her." Something in Ryan's chest cracked open. The idea of Celeste Davenport, brilliant, beautiful, powerful Celeste Davenport, worried about being liked, about being real, about intimidating someone. "What time?" he heard himself ask. Clara's face lit up. 7 p.m. Olivio's on 3rd Street. It's quiet, intimate. She picked it because it's nowhere her usual social circle goes. She wanted privacy. She doesn't want to be seen with whoever shows up, Ryan translated. She doesn't want the press hovering over her first date in years, Clara corrected gently. "There's a difference. Ryan, she chose that restaurant because it's real. No pretension. She wants authentic." Ryan thought about his closet. 2 good shirts, 1 pair of dress pants that didn't have Hannah's fingerprints on them, his leather jacket, the one that went with his Harley, his boots. "I don't own a suit," he said. "Good," Clara said firmly. "Don't be someone you're not. Be you. The man who rebuilt a motorcycle engine while teaching his daughter about physics. The man who quotes Seneca while waxing floors. The man who makes the most powerful woman in Los Angeles smile like she's just a regular person." Hannah hugged his leg. "Please, Daddy, just try." Ryan Walker looked at his daughter, thought about Sarah's last words. "Lev, Ryan. For both of us, Lev," and made a decision that terrified him. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." Clara whooped. Hannah jumped up and down, and Ryan felt like he'd just agreed to jump off a cliff without checking if there was water below. He had 12 hours to prepare. 12 hours to figure out how to walk into a restaurant and face the woman who'd occupied his thoughts for 3 years. 12 hours to decide what he'd say when she realized her blind date was the man who cleaned her office floors. The buffer sat forgotten as Clara hustled Hannah back toward the staff break room, already planning his outfit, his talking points, his casual but confident entrance. Ryan stood alone in the lobby, surrounded by the luxury he maintained but would never afford, and wondered if he was about to make the biggest mistake of his life, or if maybe, just maybe, Clara was right. Maybe he deserved something good, even if that something was so far out of his league he couldn't see it without binoculars. The day passed in a blur of anxiety and mechanical work. Ryan attacked his task list with unusual aggression. If he was going down in flames tonight, at least the Mellbrook would be spotless. He scrubbed grout lines in the guest bathrooms with a toothbrush. He polished the brass fixtures until they gleamed. He reorganized the supply closet, creating perfect right angles with cleaning product bottles. Anything to avoid thinking about 7 p.m. At lunch, he sat in the parking garage next to his Harley, eating the sandwich Hannah had helped him make that morning. The motorcycle was his meditation. Sarah had encouraged him to buy it after Hannah was born. You need something that's just yours, Ryan. Something that reminds you you're not just a dad or a worker. You're Ryan Walker, and Ryan Walker is pretty damn cool. He'd bought it used from an estate sale 3 years ago. 1952 Harley-Davidson Panhead, electric blue, fully restored by someone who'd clearly loved it. The previous owner had died according to the auction listing. Their family was liquidating assets. Ryan had scraped together every penny of his savings, money he'd been setting aside for Hannah's college fund, money that should have gone to responsible things, but he'd seen that Harley and something in him had cracked open. He'd bid, won, brought it home, taught himself to maintain it through YouTube videos and library books, rode it to work every morning, Hannah waving from Mrs. Chen's window. It was freedom and responsibility and beauty all wrapped in chrome and leather. Now he ran his hand over the fuel tank, tracing the custom pinstriping, and tried to breathe. Walker! He looked up. Tom Chavez, head of building maintenance, stood at the garage entrance. Tom was 60, had worked at the Mellbrook for 30 years, and treated Ryan like the son he'd never had. Tom, what's up? Could ask you the same. Tom ambled over, weathered hands in his pockets. You've been cleaning like the president's visiting. Something wrong? Ryan hesitated, then figured what the hell. I have a date tonight. Tom's eyebrows shot up. A date? First one since Sarah? First real one, yeah. Ryan stood, wiping his hands on his uniform. And I'm about to mess it up spectacularly. Why's that? Because she's way out of my league, and she doesn't know who I am. It's a blind date setup, and when she sees me, she's going to... Ryan stopped. He couldn't tell Tom it was Celeste. Couldn't risk that getting back to the wrong people. She's going to be disappointed. Tom studied him for a long moment. Then he reached out, gripped Ryan's shoulder. You listen to me, kid. I've watched you for 3 years. Watched you raise that little girl alone, work 2 jobs, never complain. Watched you treat everyone in this place, from the dishwashers to the CEO herself, with the same respect. You know what that tells me? Ryan shook his head. Tells me you're quality. Real quality. And any woman who can't see that isn't worth your time. Tom squeezed his shoulder. You got education. Didn't you say you had 2 years of college before Sarah got sick? Engineering. Didn't finish. So you're smart. You're good looking. Don't give me that look. You know you are. You're a good father. You work hard. You treat people right. Walker, you're the kind of man most women pray they'll meet. I'm a janitor, Ryan said quietly. You're a maintenance engineer who keeps a multi-million-dollar property running smooth, Tom corrected. And you're a father, and a motorcycle mechanic, and a man who reads philosophy books on his lunch break. You're a lot of things, Walker. Don't let society's bullshit about job titles make you forget that. Ryan felt something ease in his chest. Not much, but enough. Thanks, Tom. Go on, get out of here early. Take a long shower, wear something that makes you feel good, and walk in there like you belong. Tom grinned. Because you do. Ryan left the garage at 4 p.m., Tom covering for him. Drove his Harley home through Los Angeles traffic, the vibration of the engine grounding him. Hannah was at her friend Mia's house. Clara had arranged that too. The woman was terrifyingly efficient. His apartment was small but clean. Hannah's drawings covered the fridge, her toys organized in colorful bins. His bedroom was sparse. Bed, dresser, 1 good armchair for reading. But the bathroom had a decent shower, and he stood under the hot water for 20 minutes, trying to wash away the panic. What did you wear to meet your boss on a date she didn't know was with you? He settled on dark jeans, his good boots, a black Henley that Sarah had always said brought out his eyes, his leather motorcycle jacket, not fancy, but real. He looked at himself in the mirror. 28 years old. Fit from physical work. Dark hair cut short. Few days of scruff because he'd been too nervous to trust himself with a razor. Hazel eyes that Hannah said looked like autumn leaves. Hands that were calloused but clean. Nails trimmed short. He looked like exactly what he was. A working-class guy who'd gotten lucky with genetics. Would that be enough for Celeste Davenport? His phone buzzed. Clara, stop overthinking. She's going to love you. Now get your ass to that restaurant. Ryan grabbed his keys, wallet, phone, looked at the small photo of Sarah he kept on his nightstand, her laughing, holding infant Hannah, joy radiating from her face before the cancer diagnosis. Wish me luck, baby, he whispered. Then he walked out of his apartment and into the terrifying unknown. Olivio's was everything Clara promised. Intimate, warm lighting, soft Italian music playing. The kind of place where you could have a real conversation. Ryan arrived at 6:55, parked his Harley around the corner, walked toward the entrance on shaking legs. He could see her through the window. Celeste Davenport sat at a corner table, her back to the wall. She'd changed, no blazer now. Just a soft cream sweater, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders. She looked younger like this. Vulnerable. She was nervously twisting a napkin in her hands, blue eyes fixed on the door, waiting for her blind date. Ryan stood on the sidewalk, frozen. He could turn around, walk away, text Clara with an excuse. Celeste would never know, and he'd keep his job, his routine, his safe distance from the woman who made his heart stutter every morning. Or he could walk through that door and risk everything. He thought about Hannah saying, "You just have to be brave." He thought about Tom saying, "You belong." He thought about Sarah saying, "Live." Ryan Walker took a breath, pushed open the door, and stepped inside. The hostess smiled. "Welcome to Olivio's. Do you have a reservation?" Yes, I'm meeting someone." He scanned the room, saw Celeste's eyes lift and lock on his. For a moment, neither of them moved. Confusion flickered across her face, then recognition, then shock. Ryan watched every emotion play out. The realization, the disbelief, the calculation. He waited for the embarrassment, the polite dismissal, there must be some mistake. But Celeste Davenport surprised him. She stood up slowly, napkin falling forgotten to the table. She stared at him like she was seeing him for the first time. And then, impossibly, she smiled. Not her CEO smile, not her polite smile, her real smile, the one that made his knees weak. "Ryan," she said, her voice carrying across the quiet restaurant. "You're my blind date?" He forced himself to walk toward her table. Apparently, Clara's sense of humor is something. "Clara." Celeste laughed, a little breathless. "Of course. She's been telling me for months I needed to meet her friend Ryan, who's different from all the corporate sharks." She shook her head. "I should have known." Ryan reached the table, hands shoved in his jacket pockets because he didn't trust himself not to fidget. "Look, I can leave. This is awkward. You're my boss. There's about 100 HR violations happening right now." "Sit down," Celeste said. It wasn't a command. It was a request. Almost. Hopeful? Ryan sat. Celeste sat across from him, her blue eyes searching his face like she was solving a puzzle. "How long have you known?" "Since this morning, when you told me about your date." Ryan's mouth twitched. "I nearly had a heart attack in the lobby. And you came anyway. Clara and Hannah ganged up on me. I didn't stand a chance." Celeste laughed, really laughed, throwing her head back. "Hannah was in on this? Your daughter?" "Apparently she and Clara think I'm lonely." Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "They're not wrong, but this isn't exactly how I imagined. I mean, I never imagined." He stopped, regrouped. "Ms. Davenport." "Celeste," she interrupted. "We're on a date, apparently." "First names." "Celeste," he tried, the name unfamiliar on his tongue. "You have to know this is insane. I work for you. I clean your office. There's a power dynamic here that goes both ways," Celeste said quietly. "You think I'm not terrified right now? Ryan, you see me every day. The real me. Not the magazine covers or the board meetings. You see me at 6 a.m. when I've been up all night, when I'm scared I'll run my father's company into the ground, when I'm so lonely I sometimes forget what my own laugh sounds like." Ryan stared at her, something cracking open in his chest. "I'm not your boss right now," Celeste continued. "Right now I'm just a divorced woman on her first blind date in a year, who's really, really glad her date turned out to be the one person in her life who treats her like a regular human being." A waiter appeared, saving Ryan from having to respond. They ordered. Celeste got pasta carbonara, Ryan got chicken marsala. The waiter poured water. left them alone. Silence stretched between them. Not uncomfortable, but charged. Electric. Your Harley, Celeste said suddenly. Clara mentioned you have a blue Harley. Is that the one in the parking garage? Yeah. 1952 Panhead. I restore her on weekends. She's beautiful. Something crossed Celeste's face. Nostalgia. Sadness. My father had a motorcycle. He'd take me riding when I was little, before he got too busy with the hotels. I remember feeling so free on the back of that bike. Ryan watched her carefully. Everyone knew Charles Davenport had died 5 years ago, leaving 20-year-old Celeste a hotel empire and a lifetime of pressure. But this was the first time he'd heard her talk about him as a father, not just a legacy. What kind of bike? Ryan asked. Harley Davidson. I don't remember the model. It was blue, though, electric blue, like yours. He called it his freedom machine. Celeste smiled sadly. After he died, my mother sold everything in an estate auction. Said it was too painful to keep. I wish I'd fought harder for that bike. Something cold slithered down Ryan's spine. What year did he die? 5 years ago. March. Celeste took a sip of water. Why? I bought my Harley 3 years ago from an estate auction, Ryan said slowly. The listing said the owner had passed away. They didn't mention a name, just that it was fully restored, well-loved. It was blue, electric blue. Celeste's hand froze halfway to her glass. What are you saying? I'm saying. Ryan pulled out his phone, found a photo of his bike, showed her. Is this your father's motorcycle? Celeste took the phone with shaking hands. She stared at the image. Her face went pale, then flushed. That's the pinstriping, the custom seat, She pressed a hand to her mouth. That's his bike. That's my father's bike. Ryan felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Celeste, you've had my father's motorcycle for 3 years. She looked up at him, eyes bright with tears. You've been taking care of it, maintaining it, loving it. I didn't know. No, I know you didn't. Celeste wiped her eyes, laughing through tears. God, this is. Ryan, do you believe in fate? I don't know, he said honestly. But this is one hell of a coincidence. My father's bike brought you to me, Celeste whispered. Or brought me to you. Or, she shook her head. I don't know what I'm saying. Can I see her? The bike? In person? Of course. Any time. Ryan reached across the table, then stopped himself. But Celeste caught his hand, held it. Her skin was soft, her grip was strong. Thank you, she said, for taking care of something that mattered to him. Thank you, Ryan replied, for being brave enough to stay when you realized your date was your janitor. Maintenance engineer, Celeste corrected with a small smile. And Ryan, I'm really glad it's you. Their food arrived. They ate, talked, really talked. Not boss and employee, not CEO and janitor. Just two people discovering each other. Celeste told him about the pressure of running a hotel empire at 24, about her divorce from a tech mogul who'd wanted a trophy wife, about the loneliness of success. Ryan told her about Sarah's death, about learning to be both father and mother to Hannah, about finding peace in work people dismissed as menial. You read philosophy, Celeste said at one point, surprising him. You noticed? I see the books in your locker sometimes, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus. She leaned forward. Which is your favorite? Meditations, Ryan said. The idea that we can't control what happens, only how we respond. That dignity comes from how we carry ourselves, not what the world gives us. You have power over your mind, not outside events, Celeste quoted. Realize this and you will find strength. Ryan felt something shift in his chest. You know Marcus Aurelius? My father used to quote him. Celeste's smile was sad. He'd say it while working himself to death building the hotels. I didn't understand until later. He was trying to find peace in the pressure. Did he? I don't know. He died before I could ask. Celeste looked down at her hands. I'm terrified I'll end up the same way. Working myself to death, missing life while building a legacy, dying before I figure out what actually matters. So don't, Ryan said simply. What? Don't end up that way. You're 24, Celeste. You have time to figure it out. Time to build something that matters to you, not just what your father started. He paused. What would you do if you could do anything? If the hotels didn't exist? Celeste stared at him like no one had ever asked her that question. I don't know. Then maybe that's what you need to figure out. They talked for 3 hours. The restaurant started to empty around them. The waiter brought the check. Ryan reached for it. Celeste did too. Their hands collided. They both laughed. I make more money than you, Celeste said gently. Doesn't matter. I asked you here. Technically Clara did, but I'm paying. Ryan. Celeste. He looked at her seriously. Let me do this. Please. She studied him, then nodded. Okay, but I'm getting the next one. Next one? Hope flared in his chest. If you want there to be a next one. Celeste bit her lip. I know this is complicated. The job, the power dynamic, the fact that TMZ would have a field day. But Ryan, I haven't felt this real in years. I don't want to lose that. Ryan paid the check, left a generous tip. They walked outside together. The evening was cool, stars visible despite the LA light pollution. My bike's around the corner, Ryan said. Do you want to see her? More than anything. They walked side by side, not touching but aware of every inch between them. Ryan led her to the blue Harley, watched as Celeste ran her hand over the fuel tank, tears sliding down her face. She's perfect, Celeste whispered. You kept her perfect. I tried. Ryan stood back, giving her space. Your dad had good taste. Celeste looked up at him. Can I sit on her? Of course. She swung her leg over the seat, settling like she'd done it 1,000 times. Closed her eyes, hands on the grips. I can almost feel him, she said. Like he's here. Ryan watched her, this powerful woman made vulnerable by memory, and felt something fundamental shift inside him. This wasn't just attraction. This was something deeper, more dangerous. Ryan, Celeste said, opening her eyes. Can I ask you something crazy? Sure. Will you take me for a ride, right now? He should say no. It was late. She wasn't dressed for it. He didn't have a spare helmet. But he looked at her face, hopeful, young, free, and heard himself say, yeah, I will. He swung onto the bike behind her, then paused. You want to drive? Really? Your dad's bike. You should drive her. Ryan handed her his helmet. I'll hold on. Celeste's smile could have lit the entire city. She put on the helmet. Ryan showed her the controls. She remembered them, muscle memory kicking in. Then she started the engine and it roared to life. That beautiful Harley sound that meant freedom. Ryan wrapped his arms around her waist, felt her take a shaky breath. Then she kicked off, and they were flying through LA streets, wind whipping past, the city lights blurring into streams of color. Celeste opened up the throttle on the Pacific Coast Highway, and Ryan held on, face pressed against her back, breathing in her perfume, and the salt air, and the moment. This moment, this perfect, impossible moment. When they finally stopped at a lookout point overlooking the ocean, both of them were breathless. Celeste took off the helmet, her hair wild, eyes blazing with life. Thank you, she said. God, Ryan, thank you. Anytime. He smiled. You're a natural. I forgot. Celeste looked out at the waves crashing below. I forgot what it feels like to just live, to do something because it makes you happy, not because it's strategic or profitable or appropriate. Ryan stood beside her, shoulders almost touching. We could do this again, if you want. I want. Celeste turned to him. But Ryan, we need to be smart about this. If people find out, I know. Your board, your investors, my job. More than that, Celeste's voice was serious. The press will eviscerate you. They'll call you a gold digger, an opportunist. They'll dig into every aspect of your life, Hannah's life. It won't be kind. So what do you want to do? Celeste reached out, took his hand. I want to keep seeing you. Carefully. Quietly. I want to figure out if this, whatever this is real or just two lonely people finding comfort. And if it's real. She squeezed his hand. Then we'll figure out the rest together. Ryan should have been insulted. Should have walked away from the secrecy, the implication that he wasn't good enough to be seen with her publicly. But he understood. This wasn't about him. This was about protecting them both until they knew what they were doing. Okay, he said. We'll be careful. Thank you. Celeste stood on her toes, kissed his cheek. Drive me back to my car? I should get home. They rode back slowly, savoring it. At the restaurant, Celeste climbed off the bike reluctantly, handed back the helmet. Same time next week? She asked. I'll check my busy schedule. Ryan deadpanned. Between the grout scrubbing and the existential philosophy, I might be able to fit you in. Celeste laughed. I'll see you Monday morning, in the lobby. With the buffer. With the buffer. She hesitated, then said, Ryan, tonight was the best date I've ever had. Same, he admitted. She walked to her Maserati, looked back once, waved, then drove away, and Ryan sat on his motorcycle in the empty parking lot, trying to process what had just happened. His phone buzzed. Clara. Well? Ryan typed. You're either a genius or you just ruined my life. Check back in a week. That good, huh? Ryan smiled despite himself, kicked the Harley to life and headed home. Tomorrow he'd wake up at 4 a.m., put on his blue uniform, go clean floors at the Mellbrook Hotel, and Celeste Davenport would be his boss again, untouchable and professional. But tonight, for 3 perfect hours, she'd been real. She'd been Celeste, and she'd chosen to stay when she realized who he was. That had to mean something. As Ryan pulled into his apartment complex, he thought about the motorcycle, Charles Davenport's bike, now his, connecting him to a man he'd never met, and the daughter who'd inherited his empire. Fate or coincidence? He didn't know, but he was grateful either way, and terrified, because walking away from Celeste Davenport before tonight would have hurt. Walking away now, after touching her, talking to her, seeing her come alive on the back of her father's bike, would destroy him. He was falling for his boss, and he had no idea how this could possibly end well. But maybe that was okay. Maybe some things were worth the risk, even if that risk was everything. 3 weeks passed in a beautiful blur of stolen moments and careful secrets. Ryan and Celeste met twice more, once at a quiet diner in Pasadena where no one knew them, once at the beach at dawn before the world woke up. They talked for hours, rode the Harley along empty highways, learned each other's rhythms. At work they maintained perfect professionalism. "Good morning, Ms. Davenport." "Good morning, Mr. Walker." But their eyes held entire conversations. Hannah noticed. "Daddy's happy," she told Clara during one of their conspiratorial coffee dates. "He smiles now, even when he's cleaning toilets." "That's what love does," Clara said, grinning. On a Saturday morning, Ryan was in his apartment garage working on the Harley. Routine maintenance, oil change, checking the engine. Hannah sat nearby doing homework, occasionally asking questions about physics that most 7-year-olds wouldn't understand. "Daddy, if force equals mass times acceleration, does that mean a heavier motorcycle needs more force to go fast?" "Exactly right, baby girl." Ryan wiped his hands on a rag, proud. "You're going to be an engineer someday. Like you were supposed to be?" Ryan paused. Hannah rarely mentioned his abandoned degree. "Maybe better than I was supposed to be." He was adjusting the rear suspension when his wrench slipped, clattering against something that sounded hollow. Frowning, Ryan peered closer. There, under the seat hidden in the frame, was a small compartment he'd never noticed before. Sealed, but the seal had loosened with age. His hands shook as he pried it open. Inside was a leather envelope, weather-worn but intact, and written on the front in faded ink, "For Celeste. When she's ready." Ryan's heart stopped. He stared at Charles Davenport's handwriting, because who else could it be, and understood he was holding something that could change everything. "Hannah, baby, I need to make a phone call. Can you go inside for a minute?" "Okay, Daddy." Hannah skipped away and Ryan pulled out his phone with trembling fingers. Celeste answered on the second ring. "Ryan, what's wrong?" "I found something," he said. "In the bike. A compartment I didn't know existed." "Celeste, there's a letter. From your father. To you." Silence. Then, very quietly, "What?" "He left you a letter, hidden in the motorcycle." Ryan swallowed hard. I think he knew. About the estate sale. He wanted you to find this, eventually. I'm coming over." Celeste's voice was fierce. "What's your address?" Ryan rattled it off, hung up, and sat on his garage floor staring at the envelope. 20 minutes later, a Maserati pulled up, unusual in his neighborhood, and Celeste emerged wearing jeans and a simple white t-shirt, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She looked terrified. Ryan met her at the garage entrance, envelope in hand. "Hey." "Hi." Celeste took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red. "Can I?" He handed it to her. She held it like it might shatter, fingers tracing her name. Then she looked at Ryan, vulnerable in a way that made his chest ache. "Will you read it with me?" she whispered. "I don't think I can do this alone." "Of course." They sat on his garage floor, a billionaire and a janitor side by side against concrete walls, and Celeste opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a single page, handwritten. "My dearest Celeste, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you found the bike. I hoped you would, though I didn't know when or how. I arranged for this motorcycle to go to auction if I died before you turned 30. Figured by then you'd have lived enough to understand what I'm about to say. I spent my life building an empire. Hotels, money, success, everything society says matters, and I'm proud of what I built. But Celeste, I'm writing this at 2 a.m. after another missed dinner with you, another broken promise, another night choosing work over life, and I'm terrified. Terrified I'm teaching you the wrong lessons. Terrified you'll inherit my hotels but also my loneliness. Terrified you'll measure your worth by spreadsheets instead of sunsets, by board meetings instead of belly laughs. This motorcycle was my freedom, the one thing I did purely for joy. I rode it when I needed to remember I was more than my bank account, more than Charles Davenport the mogul. On this bike I was just a man feeling the wind. I'm leaving it to fate, to the universe, to bring it back to you when you need it most. Maybe you'll find it yourself. Maybe someone else will bring it into your life. But when it appears, I want you to know, you don't have to live like I did. You can build something beautiful and have a life. You can be successful and be happy. You can choose love, adventure, messiness, joy. All the things I sacrificed for a legacy that will crumble anyway. Be braver than I was, sweetheart. Choose differently. Choose life. I'm so proud of you. Not for running my company, for being you. All my love, Dad. P.S. Whoever brought this bike back to you, that person is a gift. Don't be too stubborn to see it. Celeste was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. Ryan wrapped his arm around her shoulders, and she collapsed against him, shaking with years of grief finally released. He knew, she sobbed. He knew I'd end up like him. Alone, miserable, successful and empty. But you're not, Ryan said gently. Celeste, you found the bike. You found the letter. You're 24, not 45. You have time to choose differently. I don't know how. She looked up at him, mascara smudged, devastatingly beautiful. I don't know how to be both. How to run the company and have a life. How to be Charles Davenport's daughter and just Celeste. You start by making one choice at a time, Ryan said. You choose to leave work at reasonable hours. You choose to spend time with people who see you, not your net worth. You choose to ride motorcycles and eat at diners and take risks that have nothing to do with profit margins. I choose you, Celeste whispered. Ryan cupped her face in his hands. If you want me. But Celeste, this isn't about me rescuing you or you rescuing me. This is about choosing to build something real, together, despite the complications. I want you, Celeste said fiercely. God, Ryan, I want you so much it terrifies me. You make me feel alive, you challenge me, you see me. When I'm with you, I'm not the CEO or the heiress or my father's legacy. I'm just Celeste, and I like who that is. I like who she is too. Ryan smiled. She's pretty incredible. Celeste kissed him, soft at first, then desperate. Years of loneliness and fear pouring into it. Ryan kissed her back, tasting salt from her tears, feeling her hands clutch his shirt like he might disappear. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Celeste laughed. We're really doing this? Depends. What are we doing? Dating. For real. Not hiding. Not carefully. Just dating. I don't care what the board says or what TMZ writes. I'm choosing life. I'm choosing you. Your father's P.S., Ryan said, grinning. He called it. Whoever brought this bike back to you is a gift. Celeste shook her head in wonder. You are Ryan Walker. You're a gift I didn't know I needed. So are you. Ryan stood, pulled her up. Come on, let's go for a ride. Let's go be alive. They rode for hours. Celeste driving her father's bike with Ryan's arms wrapped around her, both of them laughing into the wind. They stopped at overlooks and diners, at beaches and bookstores, living every moment like it mattered, because it did. That night, Ryan introduced Celeste properly to Hannah. His daughter took one look at them, hands intertwined, faces glowing, and said, Miss Clara was right. You're perfect together. 3 months later, Celeste made her first life choice. She promoted her COO to handle day-to-day operations and created a new position for herself, Director of Guest Experience. She still owned the company, still attended major meetings, but she stopped working 18-hour days. She had dinners with Ryan and Hannah. She rode the Harley on weekends. She laughed more. The press found out, of course. Ran headlines. Billionaire CEO dating hotel janitor. Lover publicity stunt. But for every cruel comment, there were 100 more from working people who saw themselves in Ryan, who appreciated Celeste choosing love over status. Ryan handled it with grace. When reporters ambushed him at work, he said simply, I'm a man who loves an extraordinary woman. That's all there is to it. Celeste's board grumbled but couldn't argue with the numbers. Under her adjusted leadership, employee satisfaction soared, guest reviews reached all-time highs, and profits actually increased. Turned out you could run a successful business and have a life. Charles Davenport had been right. A year after that first blind date, Ryan stood in the garage of the home he now shared with Celeste and Hannah. Not her mansion, but a comfortable house they'd chosen together. The blue Harley sat gleaming in the center, a bridge between past and present. Hannah ran in, now 8, still asking impossible questions. "Daddy, Miss Celeste says you're going to marry her, is that true?" Ryan smiled. "Would you be okay with that?" "Only if I get to be flower girl and ring bearer. I want 2 jobs." "Deal." Ryan ruffled her hair, watched as Celeste appeared in the doorway. No blazer today, just jeans and one of his old t-shirts. Blonde hair messy, face free of makeup. She'd never looked more beautiful. "Ready?" she asked. "Always," Ryan said. They climbed onto the Harley, Celeste driving, Ryan holding on, and row.